Alright everyone, this is the foot, and we're just going to go ahead and set our orientation of the foot. So we face the big toe medially, and we know that the heel is pointing downward, so medial, and then the heel is pointing inferiorly, the talus bone right over here, the round portion of it is pointing towards you. So in that orientation, this is our left foot. So now we're going to go ahead and go into the tarsal bones. So in order to identify the tarsal bones, you know that they sit underneath the finger-like bones. So again, a lot of people say that these bones look like cubes or box-shaped bones. So in that regard, just note that they're underneath the finger-shaped bones. So there's a little joint that runs over here. This is your tarsal and metatarsal joint, and all the bones below are your tarsal bones. So we're going to go ahead and start naming them. This is your first cuneiform, the second cuneiform, the third cuneiform, and your cuboid bone. The cuboid bone is on the lateral aspect in this angle. So underneath the cuneiforms is the navicular bone, also called the scaphoid bone if you want to mess with people on the practical, or drop a knowledge bomb here and there somewhere, just call it the scaphoid bone. This is your talus bone, and this is your calcaneus bone. So now we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about the important parts of the talus and the calcaneus bone, and in terms of identification, all you have to know is be able to identify the cuboid, cuneiforms, and navicular, aka the scaphoid. So the talus bone has a body, a head, which articulates with the navicular bone, and a neck, which is in between the body and the head. So just note that the neck is somewhere around this region. The head is right over here, articulating with the navicular, and then the body is the bigger portion of the bone itself. And that's pretty much all you need to know about the talus. Also note that that it helps form the ankle joint. Now, we could go ahead and talk a little bit about the calcaneus bone. The calcaneus bone has about 4 parts that you need to identify. So from this angle, we should be able to identify that this whole thing that I'm encircling right now is technically the neck of the calcaneus. And then the head of the calcaneus is right over here, and it's articulating with which bone? Pop quiz. The head is articulating with the cuboid bone. So make sure you make a note of that. And now for the practical favorite. For some odd reason this gets tagged quite often, and it's one of those things that you should need to know just to hopefully get a point on a practical day, which would be this portion of the bone right over here. And a lot of times the way I remember this is by, oh man, it's one of those things I forgot. What is it? I don't know. Oh yeah, it's the sustentaculum tali. So make sure you make a note of that, that's the sustentaculum tali. Do not forget that. It's high yield tag. And then right down over here at the inferior portion, or technically your plantar surface of the foot, this is your calcaneal tuberosity. Okay? So a bump on the bottom of the heel is a calcaneal tuberosity, and you need to know that for tagging purposes. So again, for the tarsals, just make a note of all the bones: talus, calcaneus, navicular, first cuneiform, second cuneiform, third cuneiform, cuboid. And make sure you number the cuneiform: first cuneiform, second cuneiform, third cuneiform. And it goes again with the digit that it's correlating to. That said, we're going to go ahead and go into the metatarsal bones, and then above the metatarsals we'll have our distal phalanxes, middle phalanx, and then it goes proximal phalanx right around here, middle phalanx, and then distal phalanxes. And we're going to go ahead and go into the details. Just make sure that you know that there is no middle phalanx in the hallux. The hallux does not have a middle phalanx. So for the metatarsals, and then this motif that I'm about to tell you right now follows true for pretty much every single bone above the metatarsals. So the metatarsals have a base, a shaft, and a head. That's all you really need to identify: a base, a shaft, and a head. A base, and a shaft, and a head, and make sure you're capable of numbering which metatarsal you're dealing with. So first, second, third, fourth, fifth metatarsal. And that's done pretty much on that regard. For the proximal phalanx, make sure that you know that the base has a concave and oval facet for the head of the respective metatarsal. So that's pretty much going to be seen if you rip off one of the proximal phalanxes. You'll be able to see a concave oval facet for it. The shaft is the anterior surface. On the anterior surface, it's flat, and on the posterior surface, it's rounded. I mean, again, these are things that you don't really, in terms to identify, you should just know that this bone right above the metatarsal is the proximal phalanx, and then right above the proximal phalanx is the distal phalanx, or the middle phalanx, and then above the middle phalanx is the distal phalanx. On top of that, I think the one last thing that stood out to me in terms of knowing little things is that the heads of the distal phalanxes, all of them, have tuberosities for the tendinous attachment of the other muscles that are below them. So again, the heads of the distal phalanx will have little tuberosities in which, well, you could see one sort of right over here. You could see one right around here for the attachment of tendinous attachment of muscles that are underneath the foot. In that regard, there's also one more. There's also a few more bones that you need to know. These are sesamoid bones of the foot. So make sure you call them the sesamoid bones of the foot, because that's just the way that the vocabulary you use when identifying them. Sesamoid bones of the foot. In that regard, I think we're pretty much done with the foot, and I hope you guys have a nice day and good luck studying for practicals.